Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's Red Dead Redemption 2 video, I'm going to be talking about 10 things you lose when you go from Chapter 6 to the Epilogue. So this is obviously going to be some spoilers, so if you have not reached Chapter 6, you might want to come back to this video, but if you are in the Epilogue or are approaching it, it'll give you a good idea of what you'll actually lose when you go from Chapter 6 to the Epilogue. So far I've seen one other person do this. That was Pyrerealm Gaming, but his video didn't seem to cover everything, at least that I'm going to be talking about in this video. So hopefully I can build upon that. So with the spoiler warning out of the way, let's jump into it today and let's get it started. The first thing you lose is your horse. So don't get too attached to your horse, at least one you have with Arthur, because you will end up losing it. As you know, at the very end of the game, as you're trying to escape Dutch and Micah, Arthur's horse is shot. And it's one of the saddest moments in the game when he has that embrace with his horse. And you end up losing it. And that includes all the horses in your stable, too. When you make the transition to John, you don't have any of Arthur's horses. So, again, don't spend too much money on horses and don't get too attached to them because you are going to lose them the second you enter the Epilogue. Another thing you're going to lose as well is all of your money. So when you start as John, you are not going to have any of the money that Arthur had. Now, this is a common misconception that you get that money back at the end of the game. That's actually not true. You as John just find the money that Dutch and Micah had actually captured from the original Blackwater heist at the very, very start of the game. So you do end up losing all of your money. Thankfully, though, at the very end of the game, you will get, if not all of it back, way more than you originally had with that big sum at the end. But you do originally lose that money, and for the first part of the Epilogue, you're almost going to have none to use. So just beware that all your money will be lost. Another thing that is reset, this could be a good or a bad thing depending on what you're going for, is your honor. The honor as Arthur does not carry over to John. So if Arthur was a fully bad outlaw, it's not going to affect John. If Arthur was a fully good outlaw, it's also not going to affect John. John starts right in the middle and will have all the equal opportunities to either become more honorable or become less honorable. Anything you've done as Arthur will not carry over. Something else that also won't carry over from Arthur to John is fines. So if Arthur has a $1,000 bounty in all 5 states, that won't carry over to John. Thankfully, that dies with Arthur. So in terms of the Epilogue, you do sort of get a clean slate as far as your bounties and your fines go. You don't have to worry about that carrying over either. Another thing you lose the ability to do is take place in gang camp activities. So anything you could do at the camps, like participate in the campfires or interact with other members of the gang or donate to the camp or make upgrades, you lose all of that the second you jump into the Epilogue. Obviously, because you're no longer with the gang and because you no longer are associated with any of those other members. And the gang itself has pretty much dried up, like it's done. A lot of things you'll lose the ability to once you make the jump to the Epilogue is side missions. Now, a lot of the side missions you'll encounter have to do with specific chapters or can only be started as Arthur. So if you haven't started them or if you just jump to the Epilogue altogether, those are things that you will completely miss and completely bypass over. And at the end of the day, they are side missions, so they're not obviously required to get you through the main story, but a lot of them are incredibly enjoyable, give tons of backstory, and ones that I wouldn't recommend missing. I would say, in fact, some of the best missions in Red Dead Redemption 2 are the side missions. So that's exactly why I would end up focusing on that before you go to the Epilogue. The next thing you will ultimately lose is medicines, tonics, and all crafting ingredients. So you will keep a couple of your supplies that you will ultimately get back. And at the end of this video, we're also going to talk about some temporary things that you lose when you go from Chapter 6 to the Epilogue. But one thing you do permanently lose is any medicines, tonics, and crafting ingredients. So don't hold on to those. If you want to craft something, craft it, because you'll actually get Arthur's satchel and everything that goes in it, but you won't get crafting materials, medicines, and tonics. So before you reach those final missions in Chapter 6, go ahead and craft a bunch of stuff, get it out of the way, because otherwise you might lose the materials to create them altogether. The next thing that resets is your player's stats. So they don't completely go to 0. All of them are reset at level 6. Stamina, health, and Deadeye. So if Arthur had maxed out his Deadeye, his stamina, and his health, that is not going to transfer over to John. It is going to be set at level 6. So you will have to once again rank up his stamina, health, and Deadeye. By now, hopefully you've figured out good ways to increase all of them, but it is something that will not carry over. Obviously, they are different people, they have different statistics, and that is one thing that will not transfer over is the hero's statistics. Now, this last one, something that gets completely removed before we jump into the temporary stuff, is kind of funny and needs a little bit of explaining, and that is swimming. You might have noticed as John, he sucks at swimming. Like if he gets stuck in the water, he's pretty much dead. He can barely make it to shore within a couple of feet. The reason for that is in the first Red Dead Redemption game, Rockstar didn't allow you to go into the water. There was much less water in the first Red Dead Redemption game, but you still couldn't swim. Very reminiscent of like Vice City and San Andreas, how you couldn't swim in those games. And so because of that, Rockstar sort of had to continue that lore over to Red Dead Redemption 2. And John can't swim. So this does sort of limit your abilities if you are navigating rivers, swamps, and waters, because you can't get out of the boat or you can't just hop into the water like you can with Arthur, because you will literally start drowning. So again, something to keep in mind as well, that you are limited in the water with John as compared to Arthur. Now, let's move on to some temporary things that you will eventually get back towards the end of Epilogue 2, but won't have at the beginning of Epilogue 1. The first is weapons. So at the beginning of the epilogue, you are going to lose all of the weapons that Arthur has. However, sort of at the very end of Epilogue 1, you will eventually get them back. So that means at the very beginning of Epilogue 1, it might not be the best idea to just go free roaming around, because you're really not going to have any of your weapons and any of your supplies. I did this pretty foolishly and ran into a bunch of Del Lobo gang members with nothing to fight them with but a lasso and a lantern. So needless to say, that was not the best idea. So you will not have your weapons at the beginning of the epilogue, but you will get all of them back and they will remain with you. Like you won't have to re-buy them or anything like that. The next thing that is temporary removed, and this sort of goes with your weapons, is ammo. So if you've crafted special ammo, that won't obviously come back until your weapons come back. So those sort of go hand in hand. And obviously that makes sense, because what are you going to do with ammo if you don't have any guns to use them with? Another thing that temporarily disappears is outfits. So at the beginning of Epilogue 1, you only have access to some of the certain farm outfits that you use at the Getty's ranch. And because of that, you won't have any of the outfits you've saved, any of the things you've bought from the store. But once again, once you reach a certain point of the epilogue, you will actually be able to reacquire that clothing and put on whatever you want. And the last thing that you will temporarily lose is the ability to fast travel. Now, this sort of builds off not having a camp, because this was always traditionally done at Arthur's tent. However, once you complete Beecher's Hope, John Marston's ranch, you will have the ability to fast travel from the inside of his master bedroom, giving you access to go from all the different points on the map rather instantaneously. And if I didn't mention it in this video, that means that it is still yours to keep. So Arthur actually does give John a lot of things, like as we talked about, some of the temporary things that you do get back, but you get his hat. You also keep a couple of other items as well, like your trinkets and talismans. Those don't leave. Your progress on hunting legendary animals and fish, that doesn't go away. So there is a lot of things that you keep, but there is also a handful of things that you lose as well. And you might sort of be shocked by it, because you finish chapter 6, and if you're not expecting the ending to happen, then you jump to John and you just don't have all this stuff. It might kind of hit you all as a surprise. So anyways, that right there is everything you lose and everything that you temporarily lose when you go from Chapter 6 to the Epilogue in Red Dead Redemption 2. Hopefully this gives you a better idea of what to expect, and even if you've already beaten the Epilogue, there's a good chance you might do another playthrough just like I am, or might gonna want to go back and just do things over again. You never know. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Let me know if this video was helpful for you. And if I missed anything, let me know in the comments down below as well. If you did go on to enjoy this video though, a like rating would of course be awesome. And subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new, or you like daily Red Dead Redemption 2 videos like this. With all the way guys, like I said, thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.